Damn, that's getting heavy. This is Mark Belton, SuperTraining.tv, Super Training Gym, the strongest gym in the West at the new hashtag ST. New ST, I should say. This video is for not only SuperTraining.tv, but my boy up in Canada, Omar Asmuff. Omar's my boy. He wanted me to shoot a video. He wanted to talk about me transforming myself from my former fat self to the current less fat self that you see in front of you today. I take you through a little workout today, a little extra workout that we're doing. And while I'm doing that, I'm gonna explain why I went from being so fat to being less fat. This workout will be quick. Got about 3 exercises for back, 3 or 4 exercises for biceps, and then we'll be out. This is considered an extra workout, adding on to the additional 4 days of training that we already do. We added about 2 or 3 extra workouts per week. Omar sent over a bunch of questions to me about why I decided to lose weight and the pros and cons of it. And it's pretty simple. I started out in this whole fitness game and powerlifting game as being fairly ripped. I kind of looked like that a long time ago. Well, a lot more jacked than that. But I kind of looked about like Silent Mike. I was a little bit heavier. Whenever I pushed my weight up, I would get like a little too fat, and I'd go back and forth, and I struggled for a few years with a lot of that stuff. But over the years, I jumped into professional wrestling, and I did a bunch of other things where the way that you looked was really, really important. Then I dove a lot deeper into powerlifting, and it wasn't about the look, it was about what you lifted. That was the only thing that mattered. And at that time, I was super passionate about not just making myself better, but I had this weird goal in mind. I made a list. I actually physically made a fucking list. And I put people's name on the list. I said, this is somebody I want to beat. This is somebody I want to beat. And the list started growing and growing and growing. And it was a list of pretty much every mofo in Northern California when I moved here in about 2005. I said, the goal is, no matter what, to beat everyone on this list. Get strong or die trying was the motivation. And so I didn't care about how big I got, or I didn't care if I blew out a bicep or whatever it was. I did anything and everything possible to try to beat those guys. And eventually it got to a point where I got myself so immersed in what I was doing that even after I did kick the shit out of all those guys, you know who you are. You know who you are if you were on that list. If you were in Northern California lifting heavy weights, you're on that fucking list, so you should know who you are. But I did whoop your ass. And once I did that, I wasn't that satisfied with that. I was like, you know what, why stop here? I need to start kicking everyone's ass in the whole wide world. It needs to be a hostile takeover of the entire world. And so I started to dive deeper and deeper and deeper into it. And I just kind of lost sight of where I was. And I started to blow up and blow up and blow up and become the giant, bloated, fat Mark Bell that everyone came to know and love. More on that in a minute. Who do you know that works out in $150 shirts? Me and The Rock. That's it. So in powerlifting, you're always better off being bigger than you are being smaller. And so that's why I ballooned myself up, I love using that term, to 330 pounds. But it did get to a point where there's some diminishing returns. For example, I'd look down and all I saw was my gut. I couldn't see my dick anymore. That was a huge negative. I became really strong, but I stopped getting stronger. The best body weight for me was more like about 290, between 285 and 290. For whatever reason, that seemed like a really good weight in terms of being able to deadlift good. My best deadlift is 766. My best bench press 854. That was done in the 275 pound weight class. And my best squat is kind of debatable, whether it's 1,080 at 308 or 1,041 at 275. That's up for y'all to decide, I guess. Those are obviously in powerlifting gear. But at the time, those were all my goals. And so I went after them with everything I had and made myself as big as I could. And the change came after I fell. And I'll talk more about that when I'm done with this fucking set. How many reps and sets do we do when we're doing accessory work? And how many reps and sets do we do when we're doing extra workouts? We do some for a few. We allow the weight to dictate the reps. We don't worry about percentages. I never worry about percentages, even on the main lifts. You let the weight dictate the amount of reps and the amount of effort that you're gonna put into it. I do like to work towards failure. 1 to 2 reps shy of failure is just something I've always liked to do and something I feel helps with both strength and muscle gain. Woo! Definitely blow out my butthole a little bit on that one. So I wiped out in a meet. My goal is to squat like around 1100, 1110-ish for that particular meet. I squatted 11 in training. I was pretty excited about the meet. I thought I had it in the bag, but I made a huge mistake. And I know a lot of you out there make similar mistakes. You have things figured out a lot better than you think. And you make a change. You make a change last minute when you don't need to make a change. I was preparing for a meet. Everything was lined up. Everything was going really well. And then the last few weeks, I was like, you know what? I should just get bigger. I weigh 295. I might as well fill out the 308 weight class. And so I ate a lot and ate my way up to about 310, weighed in at the 308 weight class. But that was a huge mistake because I trained at that other body weight. I added that body weight too quickly. When the meet came around and I got in the flow of the flight, I was too fat to recover from the first lift. I nailed the 1,041 squat in that meet before I fell, hammering it like an empty bar. I did struggle with the depth a little bit just because the blood pressure was through the roof and all those kinds of things, but I was also losing some circulation in my legs because my squat suit was super tight. I know a lot of you had no idea what I'm talking about when you're talking about a squat suit, but that's what happened. My leg was the circulation was cut off to my leg a little bit. The mind-muscle connection wasn't there anymore. When I went up to the weight, I unracked that son of a bitch, everything I had like I normally would, got myself tight, got myself right, went to lift, and I came down and the leg shot in. One knee hit the monolift, and the other leg shot outward. That kind of changed everything for me at that moment. I realized it was time to make some big changes. It was time to shift things into a different direction. And it was time to kind of put the fat heavy Mark Bell, leave him in the past, and come back as smelly, which I originally was when I started pro wrestling. I was always in good shape. As a kid, at around 19, 20 years old, I was about 210 pounds. I was single digit body fat. I bench pressed 225 for 40 reps. Ran like a 4.6 40-yard dash. I was a pretty good athlete. Not super athletic, but I was fast. And I was able to do a lot of things. So once I fell with that 1,085, I was like, boom. You know, it was like a dead stop. It fucking just put everything on hold. And I just looked at that moment as a pivotal turning point. And I said, fuck all that being fat shit. I'm fat. I'm not as strong as I want to be anyway. I never will be as strong as I want to be anyway. So I left that in the past and rededicated myself to becoming jacked and tan. And I'll tell you how I did it after a couple more sets.
Just a fly on the wall, filming your every move. I'll just be over here next to the cheesy poofs.
In my efforts to switch gears and lose a lot of weight, I knew I needed to switch over to not only something that was going to be extreme and help me lose weight fast, but something that I can actually follow. And that's when I decided to jump into ketosis and get into a no-carb diet. And that's pretty much where the war on carbs began. I had my boy Jesse Burdick help me out through the beginning. It is really good for you to get a coach, have someone assist you through it. And no better coach than my life partner, Jesse Burdick, to have him by my side and have him assist me through it. It's great to have somebody that makes you accountable for your training and for your diet, and somebody that you can just kind of go to here and there and say, hey man, like, I feel like having a cheat meal, and they'll say, fuck off, stay on your diet. Or they'll tell you why it's important to stay on your diet, or why it's important to even sometimes go off your diet. Through the diet, through the keto style diet, which is high fat, moderate to high protein, very, very low carbohydrate. People always ask me for a carbohydrate amount. I just try not to eat them, but those little motherfuckers are everywhere. They creep up in all your food, and it's hard to completely eradicate them from your diet, but they'll be in there. You'll have 20, 30, some days up to 50 grams of carbohydrates, no matter how you do it. So they will creep in there. Don't worry about them too much, but the fat content, I never really counted it. I just tried to take in coconut oil, fish oil. I'd eat a lot of red meat. I'd eat chicken occasionally and stuff like that as well, but I didn't really count. I'm not a person that counts anything. I'm not a fucking accountant. I'm a lifter. I don't weigh stuff. I don't like to count stuff. I know the flexible dieters are getting sad, and you guys are really upset about your little scale that you have, but this is the style that I utilize that helped me. And I know that flexible dieting works as well, so don't think I'm discounting that. I've also used a bodybuilding style diet with a lot of success, and I wouldn't discount the methods that they use either. This is a method that I used that helped me. I got rid of the carbs, and what I learned from getting rid of the carbs and having a cheat meal once a week was the cheat meal was setting me back too much. The cheat meal was setting me back, not cheat meal, but like more like a half a day of cheating, or half a day of eating whatever the fuck I wanted. I noticed that that was throwing me off for 2, 3, or 4 days. It was hard to get back into the diet. It was hard to think clearly. Training was even hard. I'd shit my pants nonstop. I'd blow up toilets all around Davis and the surrounding areas that I live in, blowing up tons of Starbucks toilets and my own toilets to go along with all that. But you know, what I realized is I didn't need those cheat meals anymore, and so I started getting rid of them, and that's how the war on carbs came to be. My brother and I just kind of made a pact to cut out carbs for about a month, and when we did that, I actually started to even feel better than that. So it's not to say that I don't ever eat carbs, because of course I do. I'll have a glass of wine here or there with my wife. I'll throw back a pizza here or there. If I'm doing something fun, go to a ball game with my son, I'll eat a pretzel or some shit with him. I'm not, I don't want to be that guy who's taking shit so serious that he can't have fun for 5 seconds. But at the same time, I do take this very serious, and the only way to have fun at fitness is to kick ass and to be out in front of everybody else and to be a little bit different and to try to separate yourself from others. So I take a lot of pride in trying to make myself better, more betterist
Lightweight.
every single day. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. I got more sets to do. I'll talk more about the diet in a little bit. So the diet, the war on carbs diet, it's pretty simple. I try to go for as long as I can with no refeed. Let's get rid of that word, by the way. That word's garbage. Refeed, it just sounds stupid. Programming, we gotta get rid of some of these terms. They just drive me crazy. Programming is for people that are nerding out on computers. Refeed is for like an animal at the zoo. You're not refeeding, you're just fueling up or carbon up or whatever you wanna say. Use something different. We gotta find a different word. Anyway, I would just go without any sort of cheat meals for long, extended periods of time. Sometimes 20 days, sometimes 30 days, sometimes 15, sometimes 7, and sometimes as short as like 3 or 5, just kind of depending on the week. Again, if there's like birthday party or some shit that I really want to celebrate at, I'll do it. I'll celebrate at it. If it makes it less painful to be there and have a couple drinks, then I'll do that. Do whatever you got to do to get yourself better. If you're already pretty lean, you can afford to cheat a little bit more. If you're fat, you can't afford to cheat. People always ask pre-workout, post-workout. Stop being a pussy. You don't need carbohydrates to work out. You don't need them to work out. Stop thinking that way. You don't need them before your workout. You don't need them after your workout. You don't necessarily need a coffee before you train either. You should be able to train. You should be ready to go at all times. The diet consisted of chicken, beef, fish. I ate a lot of sushi. Sushi's a friend of mine. I eat sushi about 3 times a week. Rotisserie chicken is a good way to get chicken down for those of you that hate chicken. I'd also wang out here and there and go to some Wingstop and ham out on some wings. But with the wings, I try not to go too crazy on them, maybe 10 or 20 at a time. Each wing has about 100 calories, so that shit adds up quick. Plus, I'm a fat guy and I dip them in the ranch and I make it 10 times worse. Pepperoni, cheese, salami, pastrami, any sort of meat that you can get your hands on is gonna be good. It's gonna help us in our war on carbs. We got butter is our friend. Heavy whipping cream is my buddy. We got peanut butter. We got whey protein. A lot of times I'll make shakes that help me with cravings. Coconut oil and the fish oil and a lot of that stuff is added to the diet as well. Olive oil. A lot of times I'll make a big shake at night. It'll have maybe about 200 or 300 grams of protein, a similar amount of fat. I'll make that before bed. I don't drink the whole thing at one time. I keep it in my fridge and I drink it every night until the thing disappears. It's probably 3 or 4 servings worth, maybe more, I don't know. But like I mentioned earlier, I don't count stuff. I like to have fun with this shit. I've been lifting since I was about 12 years old. I've tried keto style diets, bodybuilding diets. I've tried a lot of different styles of diets. I've weighed stuff on a scale just like a lot of other people are doing now. I've done diets where I eat tons of rice, tons of potatoes, paleo style diets. I've done the gain an inch on your arms in one day, as you can probably tell. I've done a lot of those different styles of workouts. I powerlifted for a long time. And where I've come up with what my favorite shit to do is conjugate system style training, West Side barbell type methods mixed in with some more modern type stuff, and then also just a keto style diet. I do know a lot of the other methods work. A lot of the other methods can be effective. Something else I'm a firm believer in is making sure you're getting enough rest, make sure you're getting enough sleep. Never shop when you're hungry. The fuck else do I do? I try to eat when I'm hungry. I don't try to fit in 7 meals in a day. That's stupid unless you're trying to gain weight. 7, 8 meals in a day, I don't think it fucking matters. Eat what you're comfortable with. If you can only eat 4 meals, then eat 4 meals. But again, if you're really, really trying to gain weight, you might have to double your efforts and you might have to eat a little bit more. Don't do things that hurt your stomach. Try not to eat so much that you're farting your face off. Simple things. Try to learn from your mistakes, learn from your diet. Weigh yourself every day. If you're on a particular diet and you're supposed to be making progress one way or the other, whether it's up or down in body weight, weigh yourself every day. See if you're trending towards that. If you are, then continue on your path. If you're not, make some motherfucking changes. It should be that simple. You shouldn't always have to read a new article to get you inspired to head in the right direction. You should be inspired by the improvements that you can make to your own body, and you should be inspired each and every day to try to make changes so you can be more betterist and kick a lot of ass. You should always look like you lift. I'm a firm believer in that, and I do think that when I got to a certain point in powerlifting, I was too bloated for people to recognize that I lifted probably. Perception is reality. When people think, when you got a big old smile on your face, shing, and it looks like things are going good, looks like things are blowing up on your Instagram and your Twitters and your YouTubes, then people think shit's rolling good for you and they think shit's going really well. And so that will bring about more positive energy. And so when you're leaner and when you look better, a lot of people associate that with success the same way they associate having a lot of money in your bank account as being successful. Even though that's not 100% true, it does put out that vibe that you're more successful in that way. It also puts out the vibe when you're in good shape that you know what you're talking about. Much like if you have a lot of money, you would be able to help somebody else make a lot of money as well. When it's really not necessarily the truth, but it does help put out that perception. That's what people believe in. That's what people want to sponsor. People want to be with and be around people that they can't themselves be like. And at 250 and getting pretty lean and still benching over 500 pounds, a lot of people associate that with a lot of cool things. Whatever, I don't know. It's a body of work for me. I've been doing it since I was 12. I don't think much of it because I know there's a lot better people out there than myself. It's really not so much about the perception of other people for me that I care about. I care about the way that I feel about myself, and I feel pretty awesome about myself to continue to be motivated to make the progress that I want each and every day and to help me get after my goals. What works for one person versus what works for another, I think has to do more with mentality than anything else. Because I do think everyone can handle carbs, and I do think everyone can handle not eating carbs, but they don't want to. Saving the best for last, class. So here we go. There's always the question, and obviously when I'm standing here and I got a little bit of a pump going on, there's the bigger, stronger, faster question, right? People always want to know about steroids. Well, of course they make a big difference in your training, and of course they make a big difference in your diet. You're going to be able to hold more muscle when you're on as opposed to when you're off. But for myself, I don't ever really go into a calorie deficit. So even when I was in my early 20s, I would never really go into a calorie deficit either. So I think if you are bodybuilding and you're trying to get on the stage, I think that's when that shit would really, you would see that stuff really matter. The only difference that you'll see on someone like me is that I weigh 250 rather than weighing 220. I have a lot more extra muscle mass on me. If I was trying to pull in and get a little tighter for a bodybuilding show, I'd be able to hold 230 as if somebody else only be able to hold like 170 or whatever the weight difference would be. But I think that's a huge difference. Obviously, strength is going to be a huge difference. I'm not going to lose as much strength, but whenever you lose weight, you lose body weight. Doesn't matter if you're juiced or not, you're going to lose strength. A lot of people think that a lot of different styles of diet and different styles of training only work for certain types of people because we are all different. And I think that's only true from a mental standpoint. I think physically, I think a lot of us are very similar though. We're all human beings. And I think that having done a diet that was heavily based in carbohydrates, getting up to around 400 carbs a day, I was able to handle those carbs without any problem. Seeing my boy Silent Mike shift to a different style diet and add a lot of carbohydrates in his diet through help from Omar, it's been interesting kind of seeing his body change for the better, even after adding in a lot of carbohydrates and adding in fat, which he didn't really think was going to be effective for him, but it has worked really well. So a lot of people get scared. You know, I'm on a keto style diet, and so you'll sometimes hear people say, oh man, there's no way I could ever eat 200 carbs, I'd get fat. If you're getting fat from eating 200 grams, especially if you're getting fat from eating 200 grams of fat and the rest of your diet is overall healthy, then there's a major problem. You're not training hard enough. You're not getting in enough exercise to help you to reach some of your goals. You shouldn't be getting fat off of something like 200 grams of carbs. So I think it's kind of a myth when you hear people saying, you know, oh, I tolerate carbs better than this guy and this guy, to a certain extent. But I think we're talking 50 grams, maybe 100 grams. And of course, there's always a mutant out there. There is always a freak out there. And of course, you can change your metabolism over a period of time if you grew up eating 500 grams of carbs your whole life and then you start shifting into eating more and more and more over a period of time. Of course, you can kind of change that and have a bigger gap between you and the next guy. I do understand that side of it. But in general, I think most of us are very similar. And I think you have to figure out a diet that's going to work not just for you, but more for your lifestyle. That's usually what we're talking about here. So a keto style diet works well for me. I don't have a real job. I work from home. I can cook a lot of my meals. And if I was to try to prepare, if I was trying to prepare meals and bring them around with me in Tupperware, it would actually be pretty gross to be on a keto diet and have you know, cooked up hamburger and shit like that and try to eat that throughout the day, as opposed to somebody who's having like rice and chicken and a teriyaki chicken bowl and things like that. Those are a little bit easier to eat. They taste a little bit better even when they're cold. And so for me, the keto style diet fits my lifestyle. It fits some of the things that I'm doing. And then, you know, just going back to the juice part of it again, people always want to make such a big deal of it. Don't use it as an excuse. If you're somebody who wants to be clean, if you're somebody who made that decision to be clean, then stay that way. Stick to your guns. Don't worry about what so-and-so is doing. You guys would be absolutely shocked and surprised at how many people I talk out of it each and every day. You guys all seen Bigger, Stronger, Faster. You know a lot of the truths now about steroids due to my brother filming the movie, Christopher Bell. But you guys got a lot of the information out there, so the choice is up to you on whether you do them or you don't do them. But if you don't do them, don't use it as an excuse to be weak. There are plenty of people out there that are strong. There are plenty of people out there that are ripped and shredded, that are doing really well without them. So you can perform well with them, and you can perform well without them. This is Mark Bell from supertraining.tv for Omar Isuf, and I'm out of here.